Hello everybody and welcome to Esports Today, a mini podcast series brought to you by Ross Video and Esports Insider. We're going to be talking to a range of industry stakeholders here at ESI London, talking about, well, esports and gaming. In this episode, I'm going to be speaking all about esports degrees and the point of them, what they kind of mean for the industry as a whole, and also, the educational system in general. And then we're going to be talking a little bit about esports production. I brought on Gin Rai, the head of esports at Confetti Institute of Creative Technologies, to discuss this with me, so I hope you enjoy. So Gin, obviously it's a pleasure to have you here, Confetti Institute of Technology. Let's just talk about, firstly, esports production and esports production degrees. It's something that I think is still a growing topic. A lot of different people have different opinions on whether esports and education, not whether esports and education should be a thing, but where its place should be in education.
Yeah.
I guess I want to hit you with a big question first, because I think it's always good to discuss this, is that why should someone take an esports degree as opposed to getting work experience elsewhere? Or even, I think, as what some of us would suggest, go into a different avenue and then go into esports after you've then got that degree in that avenue. What would you say to people like that?
I mean, that's a big question. Thanks for having me, by the way. It's great to be here again with yourselves. Ultimately, there's loads of different ways of looking at this. And I think generationally, working in broadcast for 20, 30 years and then going over to esports, there's the only real barrier to entry there is the context of the games, right? And because I'd say the new generation, or the last a couple of generations of gamers have such a meticulous and contextual knowledge of the product, which is really important. Coupling that with practical skills to work in broadcast production for esports production, it also allows them to nurture their real true interests in the subject area and work in an industry that is going to allow them to love what they do on the daily basis, right? So answering part of that question being, if you are working just for work experience or getting involved in just work experience, those opportunities are more so once maybe every couple of months, couple of weeks, once a year maybe. And I think the idea from our perspective at Confetti Institute of Creative Technologies is you study esports production, you learn about BS esports production technologies, but you get to do that every day. Do you know what I mean? You get to engage with the technologies every day. You get to put on esports productions day in, day out. And it might be that you're learning a part of it. It might be that you are just focusing on vision mixing. You're just focusing on replay operation. The point is, there's so many of those roles. Your work experience, inverted commas, is your education, and it's every day. So I think that's really the intent from our perspective. If you want to get involved in that part of the industry, education in many ways is there to support as a backbone of your journey to get there faster and to get there with all the skills you need.
Do you think it's kind of specific just to esports production as well? Or do you think that there is possibilities of having, different specialized subjects in esports? But then also, there is criticisms of that. Like, again, I said, why would, say, for example, not to flame any other degrees, but why take an esports management degree when you could take a business management degree, for example?
Yeah, I think there's the same thing again. I think there's credibility in every type of, or every avenue of education, providing there is connection to the industry. Do you know what I mean? So ultimately, you can contextualize any degree within reason, any degree for esports, because there's so many parts of the esports industry. So business management, event management, nutrition, psychology, so on and so forth. If you just put the name esports on it, that's the thing. But if you truly contextualize the learning experience so that the people you talk with, the organizations you engage with, the experience that you have is all ingrained in that industry, it brings a reality and authenticity to the learning experience. So with esports production, we've done the same thing with regards to our technology providers, the esports organizations we're working with and want to work with, our reach out schemes and the people that we're looking at who are employing our students to develop greater and more richer pipelines for students to study and then go directly into the industry. And I think, not to get too deep on this, but I'm going to go there. But ultimately, one of the big things is the education model has to change. You know, the model of study and then go on a placement and disconnect from study for a bit and then come back and study. I think that dated model needs to be adapted. And one thing that we maybe we've been doing forever, and we've not known, or we have known, is we've ingrained those work opportunities into every year of your study. You don't go on a placement, you just do it all the time. And hence our tagline, do it for real, right?
And so is it really important, for example, to have that prior knowledge into the sector before kind of going into it? So for example, you know, it's Nottingham Trent University with Confetti, which is a university that is known for its production and, you know, in media.
Absolutely.
So it makes sense to have a esports production in that sense. Is it
correct?
Is it important to make sure that like the right kind of players are coming into those esports degrees? Because there is naysayers.
Well, I think the inverted commas, the term players, some of our students are players, some of our students come from a background that is completely disconnected academically from the esports industry. And what I mean by that is history or religious studies, or I'd say art and design, but it is in some ways art and design, it's all art. But ultimately, the thought process is you need to be passionate about the esports industry. And that's the most important part, because that's what's going to allow you to carry your, not just through your education process, which can be challenging. Education is meant to be challenging, right? But through your whole career. So what you've learned, apply it and be in that industry for, you know, for a good portion of your life. You change career pathways and trajectories, but there's so much transferable skill involved in learning about esports production technologies. You could work in TV, work in news, work in, you know, streaming online, and obviously in esports productions. It's everything.
Do you think that in the future, esports degrees will start to get more recognition as the esports industry gets older? Because you'll have people who are, I would argue for me personally anyway, that a lot of people in the esports industry who could be amazing lecturers, or at least most of them are like brilliant lecturers, are still working in the industry because they are still, you know, in the peak of their careers. Right. Do you think that eventually as time goes by, like we're going to start seeing that transition from these notable names going into the industry?
I think there's a few different ways of looking at this. One thing being the lecturers that you take on board for practical activity in terms of learning. So what we do with broadcast production, you have people who have either worked in the industry or are still working in the industry. You wouldn't have the typical, I say this with respect, but the typical academic teaching those kind of lectures, because that research and engagement in research is actually done practically. You know what I mean? So the true quality of learning experience that the students will have is from people who have been in industry, a related industry or the exact industry, and can actually tell them an authentic experience that they've had, alongside share giving them that kind of experience when they're there studying.
Yeah. I want to talk about esports production as a whole. Obviously, Esports Today, the podcast that we're on right now, is sponsored by Ross Video.
Yes, indeed.
Amazing live equipment, your live production, production hub, you know, for some people as well. So big shout out to them for supporting us for this episode. But I want to talk about the technologies that are starting to be developed in esports production. Like, what do you see kind of going into modern esports broadcasts in the future?
I think, real quick, another shout out to Ross Video, our partners. You know, we do lots of great work with Ross, and lots of the technology we have in our Confetti X facility in Nottingham, and the intent of developing innovative solutions and innovative content for esports has to come from people who are connected and involved and, you know, are passionate about it. So with that front, the future of esports production and on esports broadcast, we have to remember that this is an entertainment medium, right? We are watching and consuming to be entertained. So the big challenge that we have in esports is the video games are video games. They're super entertaining anyway. So to create a entertaining experience requires an innovative approach. And that being how you make use of your stage design, your set, your video walls, pyro, blah, 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 all of that, but in a way where it invokes and enthuses the viewers more towards the video game and the ancillary video game content, the video game culture, you know? So you're in a stadium. How are the video walls used to convey information? Information that is so visceral, it's so vivid, it's so imaginative and creative. It has to all be balanced out together. So I think there's so many different things such as augmented reality and cross reality that's been made popular in esports by with Riot Games, with League of Legends and Worlds. You know, Dragons and the performers KDA and the characters from the video game performing together. Those kind of experiences are what you'll be like, oh, you remember so-and-so from 2017? Oh, it was the best thing ever. That's what has to happen more. And as technology standardizes, becomes more accessible, as more education providers are making that the backbone of this study, you will see more of that in mainstream esports, grassroots to top tier.
Perfect. I think that was the perfect ending, you know, in a little esports production bubble that we had right there. Like I said, I do want to shout out Ross Video for once again sponsoring, you know, their entire podcast series. Wouldn't literally be possible without them right now. So I thank you, and thank you as well, Jim, for being on.
Thanks, Stuff. Nice one. Thank you.